there are probably two aspects to it. One is to talk to the organization that comes in and ask them what do they think their reputation is, and even what do they want that reputation to be, right? Then it's a question of, well, who are your key stakeholders? And then we go through an exercise which is we call stakeholder mapping. And we go out and we start to survey the stakeholders to say, okay, how do you perceive this organization, right? And then we come back, and these are, you go through and you work out pretty detailed questions with the client of what we're going to be asking to try to ascertain how the client is perceived. Just to give you a little bit of a case study, we did some work with a pharmaceutical company a number of years ago, which thought it had a pretty good reputation in China. But there were enough rumors around to suggest that maybe there were problems to do with its reputation. So they came to us and we went through that process. Well, what do you think the reputation is? What would you like it to be? Interestingly, they thought it was what they'd like it to be. We went through, worked with them to work out a set number of questions that we would ask key stakeholders. We went to government officials, very important stakeholder for them, because they approve new drugs coming into the market, they improve their investment. We had to identify individuals within the government we could talk to, and it was done in the sense that the government officials didn't know who we were working for. So when we were asking about this pharmaceutical company, we had maybe 10 companies named on the list. How do you compare, how do you rate these companies? And it was Pfizer, GSK, Bayer, whatever, and they would be ranking them. So how did they rank compared to their competitors? And then specifically, what do you think when you come to look at this company's name? What image do you have of the company? So very specific questions. We did the same thing with media and key media covering the pharmaceutical sector. We went to their business partners, distribution chain, suppliers, all of that to see what they thought. And then we did an actual street survey where we hired a market research company which then went out and was questioning people at supermarkets and at pharmacies and whatever. What do you know and what do you think about the company? They were quite surprised with the results, which varied across the board, from the government maybe thinking they're a good investor in the market and they're providing jobs and they're providing training, but we don't really like them because they're too protective of their IP. So there were things like that coming out. Media had some interesting perceptions as well about the company, and where it's right across the board down to consumers. The very interesting one for them was the consumer perceptions, which were company makes good products, we use the products, but we don't really like the company. And so why don't you like the company? Because they didn't feel they were committed enough to them as consumers in China. The end result was that we ended up coming up with a program for them to connect with women in the 35 to 45 age group who are the main buyers of pharmaceuticals in China, etc. So that's the sort of process we'd be looking at.